Hey there, folks. Just wanted to let you know that there's going to be a little bit of dialogue, some talking that doesn't pertain to the subject matter of this video at the beginning of this video. If you don't want to see that part, if you don't have time or you're just not interested, you can scrub forward to about the 5-minute mark, and that's where the actual top 5 content will begin. See you on the other side. Hey there, folks. How you doing today? Welcome back to the channel. Please bear with the background racket you will hear throughout this production. We are on location where life happens. Sometimes there's stuff going on right out there that interferes with what we're trying to do in here. This is a segment of our Unfiltered fans only content. For those of you that are not familiar with what that is, this is something that we do for the regular viewers, for the loyal fans of the channel. And it's not quite as finished off as some of the stuff we do here on the channel. It's, none of it is high quality, but this is something that we do with minimal editing, and it's just kind of to keep the folks that watch everything that we produce on here up to speed. If you're still watching, thanks for sticking around. If you're new to the channel, we invite you to hang out and tell us what you think at the end of this. Also, those of you that do follow along on the channel will know that for about the last month, I have been out of pocket. You haven't seen me on here. I haven't produced anything of substance. Now, before you say, but Jay, do you ever produce anything of substance? You know what I mean. Technical difficulties, issues with equipment, problems. I live out in the country. There's no such thing as a fiber optic running in front of my house. All of the uploading, the producing that we do here on the channel is done, well, wirelessly through AT&T. That's who I pay. Let me try that in English. That is who I pay a substantial amount of money to every month to ensure that I can, among other things, upload videos to the internet. Well, about a month ago, I smashed my phone in the middle of a production. I was actually filming content, yes, on my phone, that I was going to be using in a segment here on the program. Smashed it. Stored content was lost. Really screwed me up in terms of being able to stay on schedule with some of the stuff I was trying to produce here on the channel. So with all that being said, if you're still watching, thanks for sticking around. This will be another segment of something that has turned out to be quite popular here lately, and that is these little top 5 segments that we've been doing on the channel. These are not quite as mainstream as some of the top 5 content videos that you may see floating around. These are more of a niche market, and they kind of pertain to me and some of the guys that watch this stuff, because a lot of us are like-minded in terms of what we like and don't like in the firearms world. I actually had the opportunity back at Thanksgiving to meet a couple of guys who are now viewers of the channel, Igor and his son Gregory. Great guys. Pleasure to meet them. And we actually had a discussion about what the topic of this video will be today. It was a segment that I was thinking about producing at the time, and after bouncing it off of them, I decided, yep, that's going to be the next top 5 video. The subject of today's top 5 videos will be the top 5 cartridges that we have watched rise and fall since the year 2000. These are all cartridges that were released, or at least commercially released, this millennium. And bear in mind, it's not an all-inclusive list. There's other things I could have put on it. There's probably some stuff that I shouldn't have put on it. This is my perspective. This is an open-ended dialogue. If you feel differently about it, or if there's something that you would have liked to have seen that I missed out on, just leave it down in the comments below. But again, we're doing this for fun, so let's have some fun. Also, big caveat here, even though I've got them numbered 1 through 5, they're in no particular order, so don't get wrapped up about that. Number 1 on our list, the 450 Marlin, introduced around the year 2000 as a modern full-power alternative to the venerable 4570. It shares the same basic overall profile, but with the addition of the belt of its parent case, the 458 Win Mag, which prevents it being chambered in older actions designed during the black powder era. So originally offered in Marlin's classic big bore model 1895M, Ruger and Browning briefly manufactured number 1s and BLRs respectively for the new Marlin cartridge. Now, I could go on for an hour, probably more, about the virtues and the versatility of the 4570 to the hand loader, but suffice it to say that there's little chance a 4570 diehard would ever give up the original for the belted brother. Now, if you have like a Marlin 1895G or a Ruger number 1 in 4570, you can hop those up every bit as hot as a 450 Marlin. But for something like a Remington rolling block or a Springfield trapdoor or something of that nature, you wouldn't want a high pressure load being touched off in one of those old weak actions. The cause of death of the 450 Marlin was ultimately Marlin's 2009 bankruptcy. As of this writing, I was unable to locate either loaded factory ammunition or empty brass for the short-lived 450 Marlin. Okay, moving on to number 2 on our list. Next up was the 45 Gap. Introduced in 2003 after a night of heavy drinking between the boys at Glock and the Spear R&D folks, the Gap was a 45 caliber round with a rebated rim cut into the length of a 9mm with 45 ACP plus P-esque velocities. It allowed Glock to utilize the smaller grip frame of the 1719 pistols with the big bore bullet. In the 20 years since the Gap was introduced, I personally only know one person who was a die-hard fan of it, and he had reasons to be. We won't pick on him for his Hobbit-like features, but suffice it to say he couldn't hold on to a full-size 45 caliber Glock. A couple of years after that, Glock came out with the SF versions of the 45 and the 10mm, and that pretty much sealed the fate of anybody wanting to mess around with the 45 Gap. All right, moving on to number 3, which is actually 2 cartridges of similar pedigree. Not to beat a dead horse, but the fall of the Marlin Empire took with it not only the 450 Marlin, but also the 308 and 338 Marlin Express cartridges. Released in 2007 and 2009 respectively, the 2 Express cartridges were intended to extend the range of the modern lever action to near that of bolt gun performance in collaboration with Hornady's new, at the time, Lever Evolution ammunition with its proprietary flex tip bullet. While the 338 Marlin Express showed a lot of promise as an elk or a moose cartridge, it's virtually unavailable online. And I was only able to find one factory load for the 308 Marlin Express in stock anywhere today. Moving on to number 4, we have to take a moment to talk about its popular big brother. The 2002 release of the 17 HMR rocked the rimfire world with a hot new option for small game hunting and varmint or pest control. To this day, it remains a popular choice, and just about everyone manufacturing rimfire ammo has at least one offering chambered for it. In fact, I recall that 17 HMR was one of the few loads that was readily available during the mostly peaceful pandemic ammunition crisis. Can you say that on YouTube? So by now, you're probably wondering what in the wide world of sports I'm doing talking about the 17 HMR, which to today it remains a popular cartridge. To that, I present Exhibit number 2, or Exhibit HM2 to be exact. Hornady doubled down on the success of the HMR by releasing its smaller sibling 2 years later. While the HMR offered speed and performance previously unheard of in the rimfire world, the HM2 just really wasn't all that exciting. And while 22 long rifle ammunition is considerably less expensive than 22 mag, in contrast, the HM2 commands the same premium as its bigger brother. While I was able to find several varieties of HMR in stock online today, I was only able to find one load offering for the Hornady HM2. As the millenniums on TikTok are quick to point out, no top 5 list is complete without an honorable mention, so I decided to include one here as well. Our honorable mention is less of an observation and more of a prediction, and that is that I predict that the 30 Super Carry will join the ranks of irrelevant cartridges released in this century. You know I'm right. Moving on to the last entry on our list, in solidarity with the grouping of the 308 and 338 Marlin Express rounds earlier, I've decided to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say that any of the Winchester Super Short Mags, which debuted in 2003, qualify to be on this list. Short barrel life and throat erosion, which, while probably not as big of a deal as some of the riders of the era made it out to be, created a stigma around the sharp-shouldered shorties that seemed to stick. Say that 3 times fast. And while the super short actions were a novel thought in terms of weight reduction, realistically, a regular 243 just isn't that hard to heft. Now, folks, this list certainly is not all-inclusive, and in this context is nothing more than the opinions of a man who has been married long enough to know that he is not always right in his opinions. Add to that the dynamic of people being protective of the reputations of the guns they own, and I'm sure we will see some good debate down in the comments section here. So let me know what you thought of our list. What did we miss out on? What do you think we should have added? And what didn't belong on the list? I look forward to hearing from you on it. Take care. God bless.